Welcome to the fertilyfe podcast, where we'll create community for aspiring parents. Based on our 7 years as IVF warriors, we will bring to you coping strategies so that you can really both get through and find peace through this experience. This is not just a journey. This is a significant life event. This is time. This is money. This is health. This is decisions. This is your life. And we'll bring in doctors and mental health professionals, healers, anyone that we've come across along the way that's knowingly or unknowingly helped us so that we could get to where we are today. We started with IVF, we ended with surrogacy, and now we have our healthy, beautiful baby. She's safe and she's ours. And we want to be there for you so that if you want to be a parent, you will be a parent. Today, we're joined with Paul Caine, the co-founder and board chair of Griffin Cares Foundation. Welcome, Paul.
Thank you. Thank you, Rachel, for having me.
It's really my pleasure. And, as we're on our mission to help aspiring parents, people going through fertility treatment and the related grief that is interconnected with that, it is just really, really going to be, I think, very helpful to have someone like you whose entire organization focuses on supporting families. Talk a little bit about your experience and what all the support you can offer to really anyone that's listening, whether just by listening to the podcast or ideally, checking out Griffin Cares in more detail.
Thank you. I mean, look, what you're doing for the community that's experiencing or going through fertility and experiencing all of that goes along with that is extraordinary. And it's because, as you know, for many years, people didn't talk about it and they didn't have the community to talk about it. Maybe you had a friend who was experiencing what you're experiencing, but often you didn't. And most of that was with your partner or your family or your doctor, right? And it was somewhat clinical in that sense. Similarly, with Griffin Cares, we found a similar journey. Now, if you want, let me explain what Griffin Cares Foundation
Yes, please.
We do. So what Griffin Cares Foundation does is it provides support for families who have experienced a pregnancy or infant loss. So our community is made up of people who have had a loss, again, a pregnancy loss or an infant loss. And typically when we say pregnancy, it's more towards stillbirth is what we're focused on. And the reason why is because it's a part of it's a part of a life event that we found when we lost our child that there wasn't really any community for, or anywhere that we found people who understood. We had our loss many years ago. It was 29 years ago. We had a 2-year-old daughter at the time, and my wife Pam, who's also the co-founder, and she's the executive director of Griffin Cares Foundation. We had our second child. His name is Griffin. He was perfectly healthy, born great pregnancy, healthy birth. Everything was great. And then unfortunately, he died rather suddenly, just shy of 2 weeks old. Now, when that happened, it was devastating, absolutely devastating. And no one in our lives, our friends, family members, we never met anyone who experienced a loss like we had. And we had a hard time finding a place to provide support. We knew we wanted to find support. We really worked together to try to support each other, but we knew we needed outside support. A couple of months later, tragically, it took that long. I was playing in an industry golf tournament, and it was to fund the CJ Foundation for SIDS. Now, Griffin didn't die of SIDS. It's not what he had, so we weren't referred to them. But when I was listening to the presentation, it was the closest thing to what we experienced. Right. So I immediately called them, and we got involved, and we found they had support groups that really, was really SIDS driven, but there were just a couple of couples in it, and we talked about not SIDS, we talked about losing our children. And it really helped us build that sense of community. We then, over time, realized that there needed to be more of that available. And we worked with our
Right.
local hospital in New Jersey, and we created the Griffin Cares program that provided that type of support to people who experienced a loss in the hospital. It, and that was a stillbirth or a late-term miscarriage or infant loss, typically through some sort of tragic circumstance, through the NICU somewhere. And we did that with that one hospital, and it was really a great successful program, very important and very impactful for our family, and something that Pam, my wife, who again is the executive chair now, she worked really hard on it. She is an occupational therapist, so she was trained on support and grief services, and she helped run the support groups at the local hospital.
Okay, I was going to ask you, yeah, if you guys hired someone or you did it yourselves.
She
Yeah.
did it. Now, right around COVID, we stopped doing things in person, as we all
Hmm.
know, and then we went virtual. And the hospital, in parallel path, started virtual sessions in the Griffin Cares program, but decided that they didn't want, since they were overwhelmed with COVID, they only wanted to really focus on in-hospital services, and they weren't looking for support programs or programs like ours. So
Oh.
it really inspired us to then launch independently. So we then, about almost 4 years ago, launched separately our own 501c3 foundation called Griffin Cares Foundation, which was really singly focused on the mission of providing the type of support and services for people who are experiencing those losses. And what and it that really transformed the whole loss support experience, because while at the hospital program it was really mainly focusing on in-person support groups, now we have a full suite of support opportunities for our community, starting with when you have a loss and you reach out to us on griffincaresfoundation.org, you register, and someone contacts you very quickly, typically within a day or so, and you get paired with what we call a peer mentor, someone who has experienced a loss similar to yours, whether it was a stillbirth or an infant loss. There's a network of people that have walked in your shoes before you. In addition to being paired with a peer mentor, you get sent to you a care kit, which has support materials in it that helps you understand what you're going through, so you don't feel
Hmm.
alone. A place to express your emotions through art. There are books that help guide you, all free, by the way. Everything we do is free services. We don't charge anybody anything for anything we do. We also have monthly support groups that are drop-ins where you can just come and share your story with other families, or just listen and help
Hmm.
you see and feel and understand and feel heard, but also feel like you're not alone. And then throughout the journey, there are other support groups that we do that are themed, like preparing for the holidays is one we're doing now, or
This is a tough week.
this is a very tough week, and how to handle your family, extended family members, the questions that come up, the faces that people share when they don't know what to say, um,
Hmm.
and
Or
also
they might not say anything. There's so many, and that could be a problem.
exactly, or being so afraid of being real and honest with you, and even
Hmm.
sharing, so we support, those are the type of themes and support groups that help you find the words, find the strength, get the
Hmm.
past, get the take find your agency, find your place, and feel the safety that you want to feel going into these types of moments.
Yeah, because even, and we talked about it, and Pam and I talked about it too. My experience losing my dad and then just going through 7 years with IVF, like even someone saying, "How are you?" He's like, "What am I supposed to say?"
Right.
It's like no one really cares. They want to hear you're good. How are you? But then it's like you can't even say you're good. It's hard to say those words that they're a lie.
Right.
But like just simple things of this interacting with other people
you
can
know
be so
we
difficult.
we go through life saying all those kinds of pleasantries to each other without really wanting to know the answer. How are you doing
Yeah.
today? Did you have a nice weekend? Right? How's
Yes.
your family? And all you really want to hear is they're good. It was good. It was
That's
great.
it. And then you want to move
How was
into,
yours? Right? That's the pleasantry side of it. But when you're experiencing something so traumatic, those pleasantries, you know, bring you to different places. So you go to Thanksgiving dinner, having experienced a loss recently, they say, "How are you?" They want you to hear, they want you to say, "I'm doing great." But what you want to say and not say, but scream is, "I'm doing terrible. This is
yeah.
awful. Like, this is not what I wanted to be doing right now, because what I should be doing is having my child with me here at this Thanksgiving dinner, and they're not." Right? You
Horrible.
like these kinds of things. And no matter where you are in that journey, if it's, and this is, there's people who are going through challenging ways to become a family, to get pregnant, has all these emotions too. It's all the same.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So
Every year that I didn't have the child, I was like, the new year would come or the holiday would come and no child. I was dealing with compound grief over the last loss of my dad. So I'd always recognize his absence. But, and then if you have the loss, and on the fertility cycle, it's failed transfer, didn't get an egg, it didn't stick. Worse, at worst, you have a miscarriage. And like every milestone where people are sort of expected to be joyous, it's like it almost rubs it in your face.
and necessarily, yes, it does, and that's why an organization like Griffin Cares is really helpful to people, because it gives them the sense of community and comfort and understanding, but it also gives them the tools, and those tools are so important.
Yes,
And like Mother's Day and Father's Day, those are big moments too. We have programs
absolutely.
around Mother's Day and Father's Day. A lot of people don't know there is a bereaved Mother's Day, which is the
Oh, wow.
for Mother's Day, and that is, these are important moments to know that, like, yeah, it's you are a mom, and it's okay,
Yeah.
and these are important parts of finding community and support. One of the biggest, most meaningful things we do each year is called Remembrance Day, which is a single day, but it's really part of a month. And it was started by Ronald Reagan, of all things.
Oh, I didn't know that.
He started it not because he had a loss that we know of, but what he recognized was, when you lose a parent, you lose your past, right? And I'm so sorry about your dad, and that's a lot of what that is. And when you
Mhm.
lose a spouse, there's a name for that, right? If you lose a parent, you're an orphan. If you lose a spouse, you're a widow. But when
Right.
you lose a child, there's no name for
Right.
that. And what he recognized is, there are many parents out there that have experienced miscarriage, stillbirth, infant loss, and they deserve to be recognized as parents. And
Was
they
there something happening around that time that you know of that prompted him to think about that?
Nope, not at all. But what it did is it created a transformational cadence that
Mhm.
now October every year is Remembrance Month,
Right.
and it's where different communities come together in different ways. We in Griffin Cares have Remembrance Day, where we bring the community together to just be a community. We have people come together. We have arts and crafts. We've got different activities for families, for siblings, things like that. And then we do a walk where everybody walks together as a community to walk in memory of our children. And then we have a ceremony where we have some community speakers speak about their journey, but we also give everyone the opportunity to say their child's name. And what we hear a lot is, people never thought they would ever hear that, their name, and to be able to
Right.
stand in public and to say it and to hear it
So
is very
important.
meaningful to people. Um, and with all these different events, Mother's Day, Father's Day, Remembrance Day, and then grief anniversaries, all of these things, we send care kits to people.
Mhm.
There's physical materials they get. Again, everything's free of charge, so that they can find that peace, or find that community, or find that moment to give them that strength to continue to move forward. And then there's one beautiful thing that the organization does is when people have children subsequently, they're called rainbow babies. And when you have a
Mhm.
rainbow baby, we recognize your baby with a rainbow gift. And there are
Mhm.
many of rainbow babies out there, which we love. And,
Yeah, I
the,
got one now.
and yes,
My
yeah,
rainbow's 4 months old.
that's right. And the siblings, and it's a sibling. It's not only a rainbow baby, but it's a sibling. And
True.
we provide support to siblings because they
Right.
too have, even if they never in this earth met their sibling, they
Mhm.
they have there's a it's part of their journey too and their story. And we have a whole sibling
Yes.
program.
So many questions. So, one of the comments you made just in passing now was you bring the community together for Remembrance Day to be a community. What does that mean to you to be a community? Because I think the community is something that people talk about, but what does it really mean to be a community in your view?
So, people experience it no matter what part of life you're in. Everybody knows what that feeling of community is, where you walk into a room of people that are just like you or have gone through things like you or experiencing life like you have or are in your same industry or have are all the same gender or all going through different life circumstances or different values and ideals or political things. Everybody knows what it's like to walk into that room and feel that sense of comfort because it's the group of people that it's most like them, right? That's community. But then in the world of grief, this happens to you unexpectedly. Typically,
Right.
you don't plan for it, so you generally are thrust into it. And when you're thrust into it, your current community isn't
Doesn't really.
is not the same community
Yeah.
in that respect. You
Yeah.
can't turn to it the same way. But
That's so interesting.
when you walk into the room where everybody there understands what it's like, what you're going experiencing now or have experienced in your past, that community moment is kind of unbelievably comforting. What I loved about Remembrance Day this year was we had families with kids running around playing soccer in the fields and laughing and singing and dancing and parents smiling and hugging each other and sharing and eating together and celebrating and doing art together. It wasn't solemn. It was just moments. Of course, there were people there who were crying and there were some people who were sad because they were more recent, but it was just everybody there understood each other because you all were had experienced something similar. And family members, friends who didn't experience it, who aren't part of the community, were there too. We had hundreds of them, and they were there to support, to be
That's wonderful.
and that was phenomenal too because they came with that heart of like, how can I be here? I want to be here for you. I'm here for you.
Yeah.
And they found a sense of purpose and excitement for that too. It only got more serious during the ceremony because it is what it is, but it's one of the more moving moments.
The
And
naming ceremony.
yeah,
Saying the names.
it's
Yeah.
it's really a recognition ceremony. It's where we recognize our
Recognition.
losses, right? And then a beautiful thing that happens in October too, which happens worldwide, is called the Wave of Light, which is in every time zone at 7 p.m. You light a candle for your child, and that wave of light starts in one market and then it goes around the world throughout the night. Every hour, someone somewhere is lighting a candle
Mhm.
for their loss. And that wave of light is one of the more meaningful things. We do that as an organization as well. But it's a beautiful experience throughout the world.
And I love it all. That reminds me of the yurtzeit, which in the Jewish tradition is a big thing for the
Yep.
anniversary of passing. And it's all what you're saying is like taking, it's like having a sacred space for your grief. Because the thing with grief that we both know is it can at times engulf you. Like if you let it and you just sort of surrender to it in a way, it can take over. And it can happen even if the loss has been years ago. It can happen, whatever, because you could have sort of a panic moment or just a strong memory and it feels like it just happened. And then you
Yeah.
need to kind of actively work on that's where the coping is, that you're side by side with the grief, you're recognizing it, you're nurturing it, right? And like lighting a candle, as an example, is that sacred like pause of, I know it's there. It's part of me.
100%. I mean, Griffin's part of our life every single day. I've
Right.
not only Samantha, who was 2 at the time, but I have 2 rainbow babies that are now men, Ryan and Gavin, who are in their late 20s now. And but Griffin's part of our family. We
Yeah.
celebrate his birthday. We light a candle for him at every family gathering. He's a part of our life. He's part of our family,
Right.
and a big part, and a very wonderful part. And life, and like, look, when you lose a family member, no matter what the circumstances are, you have a choice. Either they're part of your family, which they are, or some people choose to move on, if you will. But that's not a. We don't believe that's a healthy way to live. It's They're part of your family, and they're part of your story, and they're part of your world, and you're part of them. And there's so many, people have different beliefs and different philosophies and stuff like that. But the beauty of it is, the lost community is extremely supportive of each other, no matter what
Yeah.
your beliefs are, whether it's religious
Yeah.
beliefs or personal beliefs, whatever. Doesn't matter. What matters is
Yeah.
everybody's here for you.
Well, I think it's such an important thing, something for everyone to remember, because there's a huge amount of differences in the world, and grief, for better or for worse, can bring people together, because grief is a big part of life. Everybody at some point will experience grief.
Right.
Whether it would depend, it could be, again, different circumstances, different types of, but they will experience it, and it's very neutralizing in that manner, because it can really knock you off your feet. One day you're doing what you think is a normal day, and especially you're thinking you're having a healthy pregnancy and you're so excited, and next thing you're not in a good situation.
Loss is hard, no matter what the circumstances are. Under all circumstances, no good loss. It's all hard.
No, right, it's all
Um,
lost.
Sometimes in life, you're given the time to prepare for loss, and
Right.
that happens whether people get ill, or you just know circumstances, right? And then there's sudden loss, like when your dad died. And many of us have experienced that where an hour ago you felt one thing, and then, oh my God, the world changed,
Yeah.
and you did not expect it to come.
And same with the miscarriage. Like, one minute I'm excited, I think I'm having this like full circle of life moment,
Hmm.
like perfect, that my dad's anniversary of his passing is coming up. And it was like, no, that's not what's
Right.
happening right now.
Right, and that's a sudden loss, and those kinds of moments, they are part of. They don't go away. Like people say, when we lost our son, people would say, "Oh, you're young, you'll move on, you'll be
Oh
fine."
my goodness.
Right? Like these are the things people would say, and the reality is, like, well, no, yes, we're young, but no. And by the way, no subsequent rainbow child replaces anything. It's just it's There's always that hole. There's always that feeling, and sometimes we've heard people describe it as like you get injured and you're bleeding, and that's what the loss is a terrible injury. But then it heals over, and then you have a scar, but the scar doesn't go away. It's still there, and sometimes there's a residual pain involved, but it doesn't go. But that's kind of that it's not exactly the same, but I've heard people describe it that way. And and it's just the hardest part in the world is, how do you continue to move forward? You never move on, you move
Right.
forward.
That
And
is the hardest part. And how do you keep that person with you?
yeah, yeah, and honor them, and and be true to yourself, and also live your life. And
Right.
it goes back to the question of, like, when you meet someone and they go, how are you? How do you answer them? Or if they say, oh, how many children do you have?
Yeah.
That answer is a
That's
really
tough.
interesting one. And and everyone has a different choice in what they make there. And but at the same time, when someone's asking you that, you also know they don't really want to know. But
It
but
takes some pressure off
but like,
knowing that people don't want to know,
yeah,
but it's still hard to answer the questions.
of course, because
Yeah.
it's you, it's your life, of course.
Yeah.
Do you find that when it comes to support groups, I'm curious, do you find that people readily are seeking a support group immediately after their loss? Or maybe, and it might be a very varied answer, but, or later. I'm curious how accepting of a support group people are in this space.
People come from at all different times. And if a friend experiences loss, I would say, get help when find support, find community when you're ready. Sometimes you need it right away. Sometimes you need some space. Sometimes you don't want to, it's too raw and you don't want to open up. Sometimes opening up is what you really need. Everyone heals and goes through their journey differently. But
Yeah.
that's the beauty of what we do is we're here whenever you're ready. And our services are available to you whenever you're ready. And especially, look, it's rare to find services or support or community that is free. And we have tremendous
Yeah.
donors, great donors, great support, great financial support from volunteers and all sorts of ways to help this community. One of the beauties of Griffin Cares is it's really 100% a volunteer organization too.
Right.
So it's really from people who want to and care to provide the community.
And also, when you sign up for join the community, for a better way of approaching it, I suppose you don't necessarily need to join the support group part. You can still get the tools, have those check-ins,
Yep.
and be supported that way. And then if you want, when you're ready, it's a nice concept of knowing that the support is there for you.
Yeah. Nothing's a requirement. You don't have to do anything. And some people just go to the website and look for the materials. Like we've
Right.
got books and materials and other referrals.
Right.
If you look, it's all there on the website too. Some people just do that. We're
Right.
not expecting anyone to do anything other than what's right for them.
Yeah. Let's talk about the word journey, because I have to say that I take a sensitivity to the word journey because I've heard it just so many times that I started to get irritated when someone would talk about this fertility journey, the surrogacy journey. I
Right.
couldn't take it anymore. And I'm just interested on your thoughts on the concept of journey and how it relates to also the concept that this is a significant life event when you have a loss, when you're going through something challenging, like in my, side of it, the IVF side. These are transformative life experiences.
Yeah.
But I suppose they're on the path of your overall life journey, right? So help me make sense and feel like I am not triggered by the word journey.
You're more than welcome to be triggered by anything you want to be triggered by. It's so interesting you point that out because people do use the word journey a lot, right? But life is a journey. Let's start with that. It is
Yeah.
from the moment you're born to the moment you leave this earth. That is your journey, and
Right.
your journey is a series of circumstances and experiences that is uniquely yours, and that is your journey. And some people look at it as a linear journey, meaning every day is another step along your journey path. That's your journey. Then there are those that you think about a journey as like a trip. Like I'm going to Italy. I leave on Saturday. I come back the following Saturday. Every day I'm doing something differently. That's a different type and definition of journey.
Right.
But in a life journey, in a life experience, you do from the moment you're born and on, you're experiencing different things, and sometimes there are moments that begin and end, and sometimes they are moments that that continue forever. Like you get educated, you graduate college. That college journey, from the moment you started college to the moment you ended it, was a journey, but that college experience is forever in your journey path.
Mm.
And so life moments.
Your learnings, meaning like that you took from it, right? That you're going to bring with you.
Exactly. So
Mhm.
life moments impact your life journey, and it's part of your building blocks, and therefore it's who you are. So
Right.
when you experience a loss along your path, then there is an arc to that, right? And everybody, and there's a lot of books and documentation about the stages of grief or process of grief and all of that. But and there is, I mean, I'm not a trained professional in that way, so I'm not going to comment on that. But one would respect the fact that you didn't experience a grief like that before. So the moment of that grief, it began a new spoke on your journey that you didn't expect. And here you
Mhm.
are, but it is going to be part of the building blocks of the way you're going to live the rest of your life, one way or another. And that's where learning and growing and finding the peace, finding the community, finding the comfort, finding yourself along that path is so important. And it's part of the healing process. And those that don't heal, it affects the rest of their life and their life journey differently. And we see that with traumatic events. Some people don't resolve trauma very well. And when they
Mm.
don't resolve trauma, it comes back and affects them later in life in different ways. That's why it's important to address that, to find the community, to find
Right.
that piece, to get the healthiest self you can, so that the rest of your life is at its, it's as strong as possible.
It actually did help me soften my feelings around journey because when I think of it as a life journey, I totally find comfort in that because I think where I've struggled, and even though I have my baby and I'm still like, it was a lot of traumatic stuff, I think, with the IVF. And I think that what it is that journey has not felt sufficient because it felt like, oh, this is just a path on your journey when it's a transformative life experience.
Hmm.
IVF, grief, loss. It's what you said, sort of similar to college. It's yes, it might be a chapter, but it stays with you what you learn. And actually, when I spoke to Pam, she talked about this in the sense of articulation of why are we talking about this, right? Like, why am I talking about this? Why are we talking about this? And it's because it's an opening. It's like now you've widened your view on life and you can't unsee it.
Right. No, that's right. And no matter what you experience in your life, you never you can decidedly, like, forget it, and but you never really do. You just, as they say, bury it somewhere in your mind, but you never really do. It's always there. And when you suppress emotions and suppress life moments, sometimes it affects later in life in a way that you don't want.
Yeah.
What we do see is when people have loss, I think it's pretty well documented that it affects the whole family. It affects relationships. It affects could affect your job. It could affect your friendships. It could affect a lot of things. And
Yeah.
so whatever how you want to process that and to find your true path, that's part of your choices, and part of your choices could be just keep moving forward. And sometimes your choices are, no, I want to like see this and treat it honestly, and to find myself in this moment, and look for support and community to do that. It's not for everybody. I talk to many people who I know in my work or my personal life who've experienced, let's say, a miscarriage or different types of loss, and they don't want the support. They don't want the community.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, oh, I'm going to lean on my religion, or I'm going to lean on my spouse, or whatever. It doesn't matter. And that's their choice. And that's good. That's good for them. If it's good for them, it's great. And
Yeah.
that's all great. We just want to make sure that if you do want a community, or if you
Yeah.
do want the support, that we're here to be there for you.
Yeah. And I think we share in the value of coping.
Yeah.
Like you said, finding your healthiest self. Like, and I didn't even realize this was a thing, but I learned about it in, I think, really just developing fertilife in this podcast, the concept of post traumatic growth. That's actually not a term that I was familiar with. And that's what I realized that I've been working on, I suppose,
Mhm.
and experiencing. And it's this interesting phenomenon because I'm grateful for it. But I'm not like wanting these traumas and these losses to have occurred. But then at the same time, they did occur. And so the best I can do is be as grounded and resilient as possible to how I bring my new self into the world and how I like experience the world around me, because it was kind of became a different view, like we talked
Right.
about too.
And that's right. And the fact that you started fertilife is huge because it didn't exist before your journey, before your life experience and life experience.
Thanks for
And
not saying journey.
I didn't want to say it, trigger you there. But it didn't exist before, but it does exist now. It's because
Right.
the gift you're giving others is the wisdom and the detail of what you've gone through, so that perhaps it'll resonate with them or help them in some way. And that's
Yeah.
what similar to the motivation of us forming Griffin Cares Foundation was. Again, not that everybody wants it or needs it, but if you do, we wanted to make sure that someone was there, because when we went through it, there was no one there.
And I think it's so important. I remember too, the clinic that I work with was called, well, I still work with them, is called Columbia University. And they have a support group every week. And I liked having it on my calendar. I still like having it on my calendar. Just that it's there. Like it's just that it's there. That's all I need to know. If I want to do it, then I could do it. If I don't, then I won't. But at least, because sometimes if you're in this feelings of grief, you feel isolated. And you even within your own marriage, family, and I'm not suggesting anything personally, I'm just speaking about people in general. You could be experiencing something that's just unique to how you're feeling. So you could feel like alone, and you see something pop up on your calendar. You're not alone. You know that at this time, at 7 o'clock on this day, that 10 other people are going to be there talking about this. I also joined something called Option B, which is by Sheryl Sandberg, and it was virtual grief support. I did that, like WhatsApp chats. Like I joined, I didn't join. Like, and I feel like same thing with you. And then you also have the fact that you're sending things out. It's just like this reminder that you have support. Like somewhere in the universe, there's people that like understand and recognize what you're dealing with.
That's true. That's right. And again, it's where affinity groups exist in companies. It's where book clubs kind of come together too. It's like
Right.
people love community. They love coming together to know there are other people who understand.
What about talk about the peer mentors? How does that work in terms of where that person might be on their path of grieving, their training and ability to do this, what type of support one can get?
So again, Griffin Cares is not professional support; it's community and peer support. So
Right.
there is a training program that we do with the organization, so that we provide tools for peer mentors, so that they know how to provide or to be there in the best possible way. And Pam, along with the other people who do the facilitation, do a lot of training um, so that they are really able to create the forum and the community that is the most appropriate and supportive that they can. And as I said, Pam is a trained professional as an
Right.
occupational therapist, but she doesn't come to it with her professional um, uh, accreditation per se, because it's not a professional program, but her training is pretty valuable. But with the peer
Yeah.
mentors, these are people who are further along in their path. So they're not newly grieving. They are generally either far enough down the line where they have perspective and want to help support somebody else in their path, or even further, and they have even more to share. But the key part of it is what the team really tries to do is pair you with somebody who's experienced something similar to you, so that when you're speaking to each other, there's a higher level of understanding and compassion and maybe insights that
Mm.
because they like we would, if they've experienced something similar enough that that it can be very good in that community journey. So
And
journey. Sorry.
what are your, it's okay. I can handle journey. I just curious. And what are your thoughts on, so at the time of this recording, it's Thanksgiving week. Then we're getting into more holidays and a new year.
Right.
What are your thoughts on the anticipatory grief and any coping strategies that you've employed or you've seen helpful for people, kind of like starting with this kind of runway of holidays and milestones that can be a very tough period for the next 6 to 8 weeks?
Um, Holidays are one of those moments where, we grow up with a perspective of what the holidays are, and everyone has that big
Right.
smile and watch a lot of these like holiday movies on Netflix, and you like it's all everyone's like,
Yay.
yay, right? Presents, be together, Thanksgiving, sit around the table. What am I thankful for? And all this kind of stuff. And it's so nice. It really is really, really
It
nice.
is nice.
But when you're going through something that doesn't feel nice, and a loss is one of those things, you just don't feel like you're on that same page of that happy joy and 'tis the season and all the things that we hear. And you sometimes even get angry that
Yeah,
you're feeling
absolutely.
that way. And so these are unique moments that really um, bring out feelings in people that some people just don't know how to process or how to handle those situations. And sometimes it's like I'm just going to run away. I'm not going to go. And that's okay too, because we call those grief passes. It's like it's okay, just take a grief pass.
Oh,
You
I
know,
like that.
um,
I've been
um,
doing grief passes.
yeah,
I didn't know it was called that because it's like hard when something you're trying to keep something to what it was, but it's not the same anymore. So I've been thinking about the concept of just don't do it the same. Just
right,
do it in an unconventional way.
right. That's right. And there's no rule of what you should do.
Right.
It's your choice. But
It's just what you're used to doing or what you did before the loss or something like that.
yeah. And families and every family has a different dynamic, a different structure. Everyone has a different place in the family, different roles, responsibilities, expectations. Lots come with this. It's really loaded. But that's where organizations like Griffin Cares could be very helpful, because then you're talking and asking those questions amongst people who have been in your shoes or are in your shoes, and you can compare notes and talk things through, and it
I like
helps
to
you.
compare notes. Yeah, because everyone's figuring it out. There's no right or wrong way, but maybe a little experimentation of like ideas really of
Right.
how to deal with things.
Here's what I did. This is how it felt. May not have been right, may have been right for you. See what you want to do.
Yeah.
I do remember when we lost Griffin, how those first years worth of holidays were really hard, but that again was 29 years ago, but still today they're still hard. I mean, it doesn't get easier. It gets easier or it gets different, but it's never. It's this is who we are.
The way I think of grief is, and I've thought a lot about it, as you know, written about it, and try to kind of wrap my head around it really, is a softening. Like I
Yeah.
feel like my goal has been to soften it so it doesn't feel like it's going to be so intense. You don't want to feel debilitated. You want to function. You want to, you're alive now too. And there's
Right.
something to that, your life that you have, and why are you here? And how can you embrace that? And I think what you're doing with Griffin Cares is so inspiring because everybody's saying the name Griffin, which I love, and you're carrying him with you
Exactly.
on your journey that you're so fortunate to continue to have.
And that's a big part of it, is like really, like I love hearing people say Griffin Cares, because they say Griffin, and
Yeah.
it feels like, okay, there you are. And there are times I do run into people who are around the same age or the same age. I know this one woman I've been a mentor of, whose actual birthday is almost identical to Griffin's, and she is the same age. And every time I talk to her, I'm like reminded
Oh
of
my gosh.
Griffin, in a good way. In a way, it
Yeah.
gives me kind of a smile and a joy, because I feel like, oh well, there's it's not there's something beautiful about it. And I do it. I do remember a lot of the feelings, always, of the rawness of it in the beginning, but I also feel and understand today. And the beautiful part about Griffin Cares is, in my personal and professional life, I do run into a lot of people who've experienced the loss, and you may not even know it. Some of them are celebrities. Some of
Mhm.
them are regular people. Some are, it touches more people than you can think. And as
Mhm.
a result, people really do want to process it all very differently.
Yeah. Is there anything else you want to add that I didn't ask you?
No, but other than I appreciate being here. I
We
so
appreciate
appreciate
it.
your heart and your beautiful sensitivity to bring this to the forefront and to build awareness. And for anyone who has experienced a stillbirth or an infant loss and would like support from Griffin Cares, reach out. We'd love to be there for you, and we'd be proud to uh, be on your path with you. And Rachel, I just appreciate you.
Same here. Thank you. Thank you for helping share your coping strategies, be so vulnerable. And if even just one person listens to this, I feel that that will be, that will be enough, right? So just thank you for joining. Really appreciate
Thank
it.
you.